This is the Louie Tee Network. Hey, either you're outside or you're
in the lab room.
Who else could it be but me, Dormant? Louie Tee, welcome. You are in the lab room. Of course, I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. Day numero uno of the 2016 NFL Scouting Combine on the field drills. Yesterday, tight ends, running backs, really good showing by both groups. Today, it's the big ticket day, quarterbacks, wide receivers, and this year, a new addition to the group. They slid the tight ends on the backside of that. And I actually figured out what the NFL was doing. It took me 2 days to figure it out because normally the tight ends go on day one. Normally the running backs don't go until day 3 on Sunday. Well, this year, they kind of switched it up. And what they were looking to accomplish was get all of the offensive groups done first on the first 2 days, and then the last 2 days would be reserved for the defensive groups. And so I like it. I like it a lot. So bravo on the NFL making a very subtle change to the setup and having it really accomplish something like getting all of the offense out of the way, which is usually what people want to see the most. But in this particular draft, where the defensive side of the football is going to be probably more impressive than the offensive side, I think it's going to make for some good theater on Sunday and on Monday to wrap up the combine. That being said, I'm going to talk about the quarterbacks individually and as a group. I'm going to talk about the receivers in the same light, and then the tight ends at the very end. NFL Network, I thought the coverage was solid on day 2, but they did have a very, very big snafu, a hiccup that I actually tweeted about that frustrated me to no end. And they don't usually have these kind of problems, so that's why I was probably a little bit more frustrated to me. And again, for a guy that's devoting 6 hours, 7 hours sometimes to combine coverage, I want it to be clean, I want it to be thorough, and I don't want it to come with a bunch of technical difficulties. And we got some today. Carson Wentz is about to run his 40. And again, normally with quarterbacks, who cares about the 40 time? I mean, seriously, it's not a really big part of what they are as football players. But with Carson Wentz, and you see this more and more with quarterbacks, they're athletes. So a big part of the Carson Wentz package is the fact that he's an athlete. And because he's an athlete, we want to know what that 40 time is so we can see how that could be applicable to his play on the field. So you're looking forward to this 40 time, and all of a sudden they start having technical difficulties. The camera is all over the place. It's not showing the on the field drills. They're showing guys off camera. They're picking up the audio of Charles Davis and some of the guys that he's talking to off the camera. What if they were talking about something that they didn't want on the air? What if they were talking about a guy and dogging him? That audio would have been picked up. It was a really, really bad job by the NFL Network of not catching their mistake early and getting off the air totally and just going to commercial break. But that's what they ultimately had to do. But in the process, we missed Carson Wentz's 40. They had to come back around and show it to us. And we also missed Cardale Jones' second 40, which was big because he actually blew his tire, came up lame with a hamstring injury, and didn't do any of the on-the-field drills. So that was a big 40 that we missed because they didn't have their act together from a coverage standpoint. But again, mistakes happen. I'm not here to beat them up about it, but I just thought that that was very nerve-wracking because, again, if I'm going to sit down and devote 6 hours, I need it to be a clean 6 hours that I enjoy. Make it as easy and palatable as possible so that I can digest that 6 hours and not feel like I just wasted 6 hours of my life. That being said, let's jump into the quarterback wide receiver group that took the field first. That was group number 4. And I looked at 5 quarterbacks that I wanted to spotlight and kind of focus in on in that first group of quarterbacks. And it was Jared Goff, Connor Cook, Brandon Allen, Jacoby Brissett, and Christian Hackenberg. And I looked at those 5 quarterbacks, and to me, they did what I expected them to do. There was 1 or 2 surprises in there. I'll talk about them when I get there. But as a group, I thought that this quarterback group was more impressive as a whole than the second quarterback group, in my estimation, if you ask me. Even though the bigger names in the draft were in the second group of quarterbacks, but I actually thought this group as a whole, to me, performed better. That being said, let's talk about them individually. Jared Goff, to me, came out and showed exactly why he's going to either be the first or second quarterback taken in this year's draft. Thought he threw the football well all day long. I thought he showed good footwork. And he lacked touch on the deep ball, which was surprising because in my Draft Prospects 101 series, it was actually the other way around. The deep ball had plenty of touch. It was feathery soft, whereas the underneath throws were all bullets. Hard for his receivers to corral, and I thought that he needed to work on that. Well, on the dig routes, on the out routes, they had air. It was easy, very catchable footballs. Down the field, there were more ropes. They were more on the line. They didn't have enough air, and so there were a lot of incompletions there. So he lacked touch on the deep ball, which was surprising because I thought it would be the other way around with him. But all in all, solid performance by Jared Goff. And he did nothing to hurt his draft stock. In fact, I think he solidified himself as one of the top 2 quarterbacks in this spring's draft. Connor Cook, 4.7, 940. A little bit more athletic than I gave him credit for. I thought he would be more closer and pushing towards 4.940 than a 4.8, sub 4.840. Got to give him credit. He ran a lot faster than I thought he was going to. I thought he showed some good touch down the field on the deep ball, put some air under it, gave the receivers a chance to run under it, had his quick release going, and I told you that was one of the things that drew me to him. Look, we know about all the off-the-field questions, but on the field, I thought he was solid. He wasn't great. I didn't think he did anything to stand out among the rest of the group of quarterbacks. I just thought he went out and showed why he's probably going to be the 4th quarterback taken off the board when it's all said and done in this draft class. Brandon Allen was a guy that I was very impressed with this group, and at 4.8, 4.40, a little bit faster than I thought he was going to be coming out of Arkansas. He's one of those guys that you start talking about after the Big Four, that second tier group of backup quarterbacks that you're looking at, guys that you want to develop. Brandon Allen is one of those guys that his name is starting to gain a little bit of traction. I thought he went out and really acquitted himself well. I thought he was impressive all day long. I thought he threw the outs well with timing and rhythm. I thought the dig routes looked good over the middle of the field. And I actually thought he threw the post corner with some air, dropped it over the shoulder. I thought it was some nice throws there by Brandon Allen. I actually thought he went out and did a really good job acquitting himself among the quarterbacks in group number 4. Jacoby Brissett, I thought he actually did some good things as well. And even Kurt Warner said as much. Showed good touch to all portions of the field, and that was the thing that stuck out with me with him was deep ball, good touch, intermediate stuff, the dig routes, the deep outs, good touch, the short stuff, the comebacks and the little outs, the speed outs, good touch on everything with Jacoby Brissett. I think he's going to have to work on his footwork as well, though, but that's something that with developmental quarterbacks, that's what you expect. 4.940 for him. I thought he was going to be a lot faster than that. Watching him at NC State, I thought he was more of an athlete than Jared Goff. I thought he was more of an athlete than Connor Cook. And to see those guys run faster. Even Brandon Allen had a whole tenth of a second more than he did. And so I didn't expect that out of him. And so, hey, Jacoby Brissett, 4.940 guy, but I thought he threw the football with touch well all day. Christian Hackenberg, to me, 4.7, 8.40. First of all, way faster. It exceeded all expectations in the athletic department there. Didn't see that coming. That aside, I thought he struggled a lot. And really, it was just inconsistencies with him, which is, to me, the biggest problem that everyone has evaluating Christian Hackenberg is the inconsistencies, whether you're talking about it from a micro perspective and you're talking about from throw to throw, from snap to snap, from game to game, or you're talking from a macro perspective where you're just talking about his career in general from the freshman season when he was 18 years old, bursted onto the scene and did some great things under Bill O'Brien, and then the rest of his career, which was helter-skelter, up and down, and inconsistent. And so I thought he was inconsistent on the day. He struggled with the dig route. He struggled with the deep ball. I thought he struggled with some out routes at times. But then he throws the most gorgeous, beautiful post corner of the day. I mean, literally drops it exactly where the cone was. You can't throw it any better. And I think Mike Mayock said it best. That's the thing that drives you nuts with Christian Hackenberg, is that for all of the inconsistencies that you get out of him, he'll show you the most gorgeous throw that'll make you say, wow, that's why you deserve to be a starter at the next level. But then all the other things, you add those in and you just say, I can't do it. And so We'll see what happens with Christian Hackenberg. I just thought his day was up and down, and I thought he struggled with consistency throughout the day. So move on to the receivers in group number 4, and this wasn't a star-studded group. The actual second group was more of a star-studded group in terms of big names in this draft, but there were some really good guys to focus in on. To me, the biggest name of the group, Josh Doctson. The Doc was definitely in the day 2 of the combine. Thought he performed well. 4.50 40, so a 4.5 flat. Really good time for him because, again, I didn't know what to expect. I went into this whole thing thinking he probably was going to be like a 4.55 guy, and to run a 4.5 flat, I think he can play outside and be a big-time receiver, and we'll see what happens with him. But he killed the gauntlet. I think he just went out, he snatched the football out of the air, caught it cleanly, as I expected him to. Exceptional body control running that gauntlet. One pass was behind him, and he had to reach behind him. Didn't lose stride. I thought he ran it full speed, caught everything. You just saw how smooth he was the entire day. He even had an over-the-shoulder catch where he had to adjust, fading off to the sidelines, and he caught it. He's got natural hands, and he catches the football beautifully, and you saw it throughout the course of the day. I thought he was exceptional all day long. Will Fuller, 4.3 240, the fastest receiver of the day. We knew he was going to run fast. We knew he was going to be an exceptional athlete. Those weren't the questions that we had. The questions we had going into the process, and if you listen to my podcast, I talked about this, was could he catch the football consistently at the combine? He cheated the gauntlet. He did not run at full speed, but the biggest fact of the matter remains he caught everything that was thrown at him. He even had a catch on a curl route where he had to jump up and extend for the football away from his frame, plucked it out of the air. He looked good all day catching the football. I think he really helped himself. He may find himself early second round, and if teams are feeling really frisky and desperate, he may, and this is a weak wide receiver class, teams feeling a little desperate, feel like they need an option, he may sneak into the back half of the first round with that performance that he put on display at the combine. Tyler Boyd, 4.58 40. We knew he wasn't going to run very fast, but what he did show was exceptional hands, killed the gauntlet, caught everything. He looked so smooth, natural hands. He made it look easy. I feel like Tyler Boyd is just a very safe pick in this draft. You're looking for a receiver to come in and just be a really good, productive football player for you. Will do all the dirty work, will go over the middle, catch it in traffic, may not be able to separate necessarily with speed nor size, but with route running ability and strong hands, this guy can get the job done. And you saw little glimpses of that with the way he caught the football. He just made it look easy. I was very impressed with Tyler Boyd, and he helped this draft stock with his performance in day 2 of the combine. Leonte Carroo is another guy that I really like. Thought he had a solid gauntlet, 4.5 flat in the 40. That helped him because I didn't know what his time was going to be. I didn't know if he was a 4.5 flat guy. I knew he wasn't a sub 4.5 guy. And for him to get as close as he did to sub 4.5, that's impressive. With the talent that he has and the production that he had at Rutgers, I think that he came out and he did exactly what I expected him to do. I continue to like Leonte Carroo, and I think he's a guy that also can help you in this draft class as a guy that you can get late second, third round, somewhere in there, and really be able to come in and probably help you right away. I think he's one of those type of receivers, and I thought he had a good day as well. Roger Lewis, this is the first disappointment that I had with the receivers. I spoke so highly of Roger Lewis. I talked about how I thought he was going to be a guy that ran fast, would catch the ball all day long and show off good hands and good ball skills and all of those things. 4.57, first of all, stuck out like a sore thumb. I was disappointed in his 40 time. To make matters worse, he struggled catching the football. He struggled in the gauntlet. He struggled to follow directions. He struggled just to catch the football in general all day long. I thought he had a very disappointing day, and to me, he looks like a guy that's a mid to late rounds to an undraftable receiver after what he put on display, coupled with the off-the-field issues that he had, even though those seem to be well in the past and behind him. Hopefully that is in fact the case. I didn't like what he did on the field, and I think it hurt his draft stock, to be honest with you. Rashard Higgins, Hollywood Higgins is what they call him. Well, he was anything but Hollywood in terms of the 4.64, just not a fast receiver, but what he lacks in speed, he makes up with savvy route running ability, and you saw that I thought he ran some good routes. I thought he caught the football well. He did a great job in the gauntlet. He caught the football for the most part throughout the day. I don't have any problems with him. He's not a guy that I'm truly enamored with, but I thought he had a solid day at the combine. And Kobe Listenby was a guy, just to mention, supposed to kill it speed-wise. Well, he wasn't the fastest receiver in his group. That distinction goes to Will Fuller at 4.32, but he did run a 4.35 40, but he did not do any of the on-the-field drills, so not much to talk about there with Kobe Listenby. And no Corey Coleman. He was supposed to be in this group. That would have really gave this group some star power. He did not perform because of the sports hernia. We'll have to wait until Baylor's Pro Day to hear from Corey Coleman, so that was disappointing, but we already knew that going into the combine. That being said, now we move on to the quarterback wide receiver group number 5. This one was much more star-studded from a quarterback and a wide receiver perspective. Let's jump into these quarterbacks. Wasn't all that impressed with this quarterback group as a whole, but individually, some guys did stand out. We start with Carson Wentz, who I thought had the best day of any quarterback that goes for group 4 or 5. 4.77 40 was the second best, tied for the second best time. Jeff Driscoll was the fastest quarterback at 4.56, but I thought he threw the football with plenty of zip all day long. To me, it almost looked like he made a point of emphasis. I'm gonna put some zip just to show these boys I got some arm strength. He put some zip. There were some balls that got on some receivers really fast, where you're like, you probably didn't need to do it like that, but he's like, I'm just out here to prove a point that I'm the guy. I'm the first guy that needs to come off the board. I'm the top quarterback in this draft, and I'm gonna make sure you know I got this arm strength, and he showed that all day long. But I thought where he separated from a lot of these guys was the footwork. It was clean. You heard them talking about it on the telecast. They said it was quiet feet, and you looked at it and it just looked smooth for a guy, and he did do under center, and I talked about that in the Draft Prospects 101 breakdown of Carson Wentz, that he did have some under center work, so you could see that it was very easy for him, and that this isn't going to be a tough transition from college offense to NFL offense in terms of getting from under center. Nice deep ball, the post corner had touch. I thought he just looked the part. He looked like a guy that was comfortable in his skin out there competing against other guys, and I thought he did a phenomenal job throwing the football, the best of any quarterback on the day. Dak Prescott, a guy that I talked about on the podcast, if you've been listening, that's shooting up draft boards potentially because of his work ethic, his leadership qualities, and what he did in 15 at Mississippi State as far as throwing the football from the pocket is concerned. And I thought he looked comfortable out there. I was so surprised because I was expecting a little bit of shoddy footwork, maybe a couple of high throws that sailed on him, some poor ball placement, and I got that a couple of times, but for the most part, I thought that he struggled with the out routes and he struggled with the deep ball a couple of times, but he was great on the dig routes, he was great on the curls, and I thought he was just really impressive overall in the day. And the thing that struck me the most was his calm demeanor. He just seemed like he was naturally supposed to be in that position, and that he just went out and he just threw the football. He wasn't worried about anything. Some of those guys, like, for instance, Paxton Lynch, the next guy I'm going to talk about, he seemed uptight. Seemed like he was processing information, like he was trying to get his footwork down, like he was thinking about it. Dak Prescott was just out there and he was just free flowing, man. I mean, he got the football, got from under center, got into his drop, and it just looked smooth, man. And he threw the football smooth with touch. It just looked easy. He looked relaxed and calm, and I thought he had a really good day throwing the football. Paxton Lynch, 4.87 40, and for a guy that's 6'7", just kind of put that into perspective in your mind. I thought he did some good things on his vertical and on his broad jump, and the 40 kind of backed all of that up. He's an athlete at 6'7", 4.87 40 is ridiculous. And he struggled to me with his footwork, which had him struggling in other areas such as accuracy. On the out routes in particular, balls were behind, they were high, they were all over the place. And you could tell he was kind of thinking, he was processing information. All right, I've been working on this footwork for the last 2 months since my bowl game. I'm gonna make sure I nail this. And you can tell he was kind of thinking instead of just going out throwing the football. And so I thought he struggled at times, but I'm gonna tell you right now, normally each guy gets 3 consecutive throws when they're doing routes, when they're running a route tree. And they did the post corner. And that's the toughest throw of all the throws that these guys have to make because the receiver, first of all, it's a deep drop. You're taking a 7-step drop, and then you got a couple of hitches because it's a long developing route. And not only did he throw the football as beautifully as anyone did all day, he did it on all 3 of his throws. I've never seen that in all of my time watching the combine. All 3 of his post-corner throws could not have been thrown any better than they were in consecutive turns. You don't see that ever. Usually you get 1 or 2 that are really good and then one's off slightly. All 3 of them were, and that's what you get from Paxton Lynch in a nutshell. To me, that was a perfect microcosm of what he is as a quarterback right now. The arm strength is there, the arm talent is there. He has no problem throwing the football down the field. It's all about the underneath stuff and the footwork because he played in an offense that didn't have a vertical passing game. So everything was horizontally thrown, but in doing that, it was a lot of quick hitters, not a lot of footwork involved in what he had to do. So that's where you see the issues, where it's got to be some clean footwork, quickly get it out. And he struggled with that, but the one down the field, man, was that beautiful. I thought he did some good things, and you see why he's going to be a first-round pick. Because all of the talent, the size, the arm, the athleticism, it's all there. It was all on display. He's going to be a first-round pick. Kevin Hogan, another one of these second-tier quarterbacks, 4.78 40. First of all, a lot more athletic than I gave him credit for. I will say that. But to me, I don't like him. Ball hung up in the air all day long. He's got a quirky throwing motion, and you saw it. It seemed like he was trying to clean it up from when he was at Stanford, but it doesn't matter. Everything just hung high. And I don't like it. I'm not a fan of it. I didn't think he had that great of a day, but that's just me and the way I feel about Kevin Hogan. Cardale Jones, talked about this earlier, ran 2 40s on the second of those 40s, came up lame, but he ran a 4.81 40 again for a guy his size. He showed off some athleticism before not being able to throw. And that was really disappointing because I was looking forward to Cardale Jones going out and spinning the football because I think he would have been one of those guys that literally would have been throwing some serious gas out there and putting the football up. And it would have been nice to see the ball come out of his hands in respects and in comparison to some of these other guys, especially Carson Wentz, who I thought made it a point of emphasis to throw some fastballs out there on the day. You move on from the quarterbacks to the receivers in group number 5. And this was a star-studded group as well. Laquan Treadwell, even though he didn't run the 40, he did all the on-the-field drills. Michael Thomas from Ohio State, another big prospect. Sterling Shepard, a guy that I love a lot in this draft. Told you that on the Draft Prospects 101 series breakdown of him, that I think he's one of the better receivers in this entire draft class. Braxton Miller, a wild card at the receiver position, very raw, first year playing receiver at Ohio State this past year. But another one of these guys that you thought could come in, blow it up, and really show out to be a first-round pick if all things went well for him in the combine. And Duke Williams, a guy off the beaten path, was dismissed from Auburn. Talked about him on the podcast. He was another guy getting an opportunity to show up at the combine. So this was a star-studded group. Laquan Treadwell, like I said, didn't run the 40, but he came in with all the swag in the world. Ball cap on backwards, looking like Ken Griffey Jr. And he came out and he killed it. I mean, caught everything except for one pass on the gauntlet drill. And it's funny because every single one of these guys dropped the football one time on the gauntlet drill the first time around, and then all of them caught everything the second time around, with the exclusion being Braxton Miller, who just struggled. We'll talk about him a little bit later on though. So he killed the gauntlet. He made it look easy on all the over-the-shoulder catches, which is the toughest catch in all of football for a receiver to make. He just made it look easy, man. His hands are huge. I mean, my goodness, those things are big. And he just made it look so easy. He's just running and he's just tracking the football, and he just made it look easy. And you can tell he's got legit #1 wide receiver written all over him. His demeanor, all of that, it just screams #1 receiver. He's gonna be the first receiver taken in this draft. There's no doubt in my mind. I don't care what he runs, and I said that. That's why I was so disappointed that he wasn't running, because at the end of the day, we know who you are as a receiver. We know you're not gonna run a sub 4.5 40. We know you might be closer to 4.6 40 than 4.5 40. We don't care, because you're the best receiver in this draft, potentially with the package, and that's height, size, strength, ability to block, catching the football, the ability to make plays. We see all of those things. So forget about running the 40. Just go out and do it. And he didn't want to do it, but I thought he had an excellent day on the field anyhow. Michael Thomas, out of Ohio State, big receiver, 4.57 40. It's a solid time, but I was expecting faster. When I see him on tape, I thought he was going to be more closer to sub 4.5 40, right around that area, like a 4.51, 4.52. To be closer to 4.6, a little disappointing, but again, he's a build-up speed guy, so it's not that far out of the realm of possibility that he would run the time that he did. Aside from that, I thought he killed the gauntlet. And I told you, he's a snatch the football out of the air guy, and he did exactly that on the day. I was impressed with his hands all day long. Running the curl route, I thought he took the football out of the air on a couple of sideline drills, snatched the football. I just thought he was impressive with his hands all day. He's a physical athlete. He ran the gauntlet and he fell down one time because he runs so hard. I told you, he's the type of guy that if you have a raggedy field, he's gonna be on the ground all day long because he runs so physically. He's just a physically built guy that plays the game physical, runs physical, he does everything, catches the football physical. You saw all of those things on display at the combine. He's gonna do just fine. And he's either a late first round pick or early second round pick. He's coming off the board relatively quickly, as there aren't a bunch of receivers in this draft that are worth spending an early pick on. So he's gonna be one of those guys that goes pretty quick after his performance at the combine. Sterling Shepard, I talked ad nauseum about how I feel about this guy, and I told you that I thought he lacked the long distance speed. Well, I'm here to tell you that I was wrong. He went out and he ran his tail up. I thought he had a tremendous day. I think of all the receivers, he may have helped himself the most with his day. He killed the gauntlet drill. Excellent day catching the football. I think I've seen him put the ball on the ground maybe twice, one on an over the shoulder catch that he missed time. And on the gauntlet drill, the drop that he had, he just looked the wrong way a couple of times, which was kind of frustrating because you caught the ball this way, then you got to know the next one is coming from this way. But he looked this way, then he looked back this way, then he looked back that way. And by the time he looked back that last time, the ball was on him and he dropped it. But he had a phenomenal day catching the football. It just makes it look so easy. And I told you, he's got probably the best set of hands in this entire draft. He showed it on the day for the most part, catching the football. But the thing that blew me away was the 40 time. I was expecting him to be a 4.5, 3, 4.55, maybe even a 4.56 guy, because I just didn't expect him to run fast. And to show up and run a 4.48, to me, solidifies it. I don't think he should be relegated to just the slot. I think this guy can actually win out wide and be an Antonio Brown type at the next level. And with that time, that to me seals it up that this guy can play out wide. And I actually want to see him given an opportunity to do that wherever he's drafted. But I think right now the consensus is he's one of the best slot receivers, if not the best slot receiver. And I think I'm pretty safe to make the assumption that he's the best slot receiver in the entire draft. And I think that's what teams are looking at him as right now. But I think after this combine performance, I'd like to see him get an opportunity to go out wide and do everything, because I think he's capable of doing that, and he proved it at the combine. Braxton Miller, 4.5 flat. I think a lot of people were expecting him to run a lot faster. They had Herb on the telecast. Herb expected him to blow it up. He did it. 4.5 is good. It's not great. And all the hype that you were hearing surrounding Braxton Miller, for all the athleticism, and don't let me try to persuade you otherwise. This guy's athletic, okay? I don't want you to think that I'm trying to tell you that he's not an athlete, because he is, but I thought he showed why he's a work in progress, okay? He struggled with the gauntlet. He struggled catching the football all day. I thought the gauntlet was just the tip of the iceberg in terms of his struggles on the day. He struggled to catch the football. Now, in his defense, there were a lot of balls that were thrown his way that were uncatchable, that he didn't get a lot of balls to catch. So when the ones did come to him that he could catch, I thought he put a little bit more pressure on himself to catch those, and that's when he made some mistakes. And he dropped the football quite a bit, probably the most drops of anybody in his group. So I was disappointed with Braxton Miller on the day. I thought he had a very subpar day, but I don't think it's reflective of the athlete nor the receiver that he could be in the future. And I think he'll have a much better showing at his pro day, but he struggled at the combine in day number 2. Duke Williams, I thought that he came out and he needed to have an extraordinary day to be on anybody's radar. With all the off the field trouble. He's got great size, and I think if you're a team looking for a guy with some size, here's a guy right here that can help you from that standpoint. But that being said, he needed to come in and wow us. I mean, he needed to be 4, 5, 6 in the 40. He needed to catch everything. He needed to show tremendous athleticism, getting in and out of breaks. I didn't see it. 4.7, 3.40 is way too damn slow. That's tight end speed. And so you didn't get the speed that you were looking for. I thought he caught the football well, but he didn't blow me away with his ability to catch the football. He didn't blow me away with his route running ability. And so I just wasn't blown away. He needed to be extraordinary, and I thought he was just ordinary in day 2 of the combine. So I don't know what the future holds for Duke Williams after his combine performance. But those were your quarterbacks and wide receivers on the day. I thought both groups did a tremendous job of going out, but the receivers were really slow. Oh my goodness. As a whole, it was funny. Chris Harris Jr. of the Super Bowl winning Denver Broncos, the cornerback, said, man, this is a slow group of WRs coming into the league. And yes, he is correct. These boys are slow. As a matter of fact, NFL Network later on came out and said that this was the slowest group of receivers since 2011. These boys were slow. De'Runnya Wilson ran a 4.940. What in the hell? Quarterback. I think the quarterback group as a whole was faster than a lot of these receivers. It was amazing how slow these receivers are. And normally it's the running back position that we're talking about being slow. Well, those guys were fast yesterday. The receivers took their spot this year as a slow group. And so, man, it just was kind of tough to stomach and fathom, because last 2 seasons, the wide receiver position has been stocked and chock full of athletes and guys that could come in and help you. This draft doesn't have a lot. So if you're a team looking for a receiver, you gotta pull the trigger early, or you may not get what you're looking for in this year's crop of receivers. Finally, the tight ends, group 6, rounded out the day. Another unimpressive group of tight ends. And this is like 4 or 5 years running straight of just really lackluster tight ends. 6 tight ends decided that it was in their best interest not to run. So with a group that's already lacking for flash and pizzazz, for 6 guys to just say, I'm not gonna run, it just made it that much tougher to stomach this group. I won't say this much. Hunter Henry did the on-the-field drills. He was one of the 6 tight ends that decided he wasn't gonna run at the combine. I wasn't impressed with Hunter Henry, and I went into the process saying that he was the best tight end of the group in terms of all the tight ends in this year's draft class. Well, I left this combine saying I like Nick Van Eck of Ohio State more than I like Hunter Henry. And I thought Jarrell Adams from South Carolina looked athletic, but I thought he struggled catching the football. I thought Hunter Henry did not wow me out of Arkansas. And watching the tape on him, he's an impressive guy, but he didn't follow directions well. I thought that he had some hiccups with some things, and then his decision not to run the 40. I just left the combine saying, if you ask me who I want at tight end, if I'm a team looking for a tight end, I'm gonna tell you I want Nick Van Eck, because he caught the football well. I thought he ran a little bit better than I was gonna give him credit for, and he's a guy that blocks better than probably any tight end in this draft class. And if he's not the best, he's up there as one of the top 3 blocking tight ends as well. In a league where blocking tight ends are few and far between, in college where blocking tight ends are almost non-existent, Nick Van Eck to me stood out among the tight ends, and that's the guy that I walked away from today saying I like him a lot more than most of the tight ends in this draft class, including Hunter Henry. That's day 2 of the NFL Scouting Combine. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the lab room. Come back and join me as I continue to break down anything. And National Football League. Day 3 is tomorrow. We start jumping into some defensive football players. Go get us some edge pass rushers. Come back. We'll break it down here in the lab room. There's plenty more where that came from. While you're here, subscribe to the channel. If you want more Louie Tee, be sure to follow me on Twitter at InTheLabRoom, or you can like the Facebook page at In the Lab Room. That's In the Lab Room on Facebook and at In the Lab Room on Twitter. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so.